What's going on, fellow A-pluses? It's your boy, Adam Perez. We're back once again with a brand new movie review for you guys today, as we're going to be talking about the brand new Ryan Coogler film, Sinners. Me and the girlfriend had the opportunity to go ahead and check it out this past Saturday afternoon over in our nearby Dolby Cinema. And I got to tell you, man, we walked out happy customers. We love this movie. My girlfriend especially. She's a big vampire sort of head, if you will. She loves a good horror movie, thriller movie, if you will. And this one certainly did not disappoint her whatsoever. Along with myself, I walked out thinking to myself, like, damn, that was pretty good. Like, that was certainly pretty good. But we got to talk about it, man. First off, I got to give props to Ryan Coogler. I think I'm going to see this movie again, to be honest with you. Maybe one more time, maybe two more times. We'll see. I aim to try and actually watch it on a 70 millimeter IMAX out in Dallas. I'm going to try and do that sometime later this week, anywhere between Thursday and Saturday. So I certainly might have another viewing of it. So I may even have more thoughts about this film after I watch it in the format that it was certainly meant to see it in, but it still also looked really great in something like Dolby Cinema. But I think when I get the IMAX experience and I get that um um more like vertical view of the screen, I think it's going to add a completely new dimension to it. But I want to give Ryan Coogler props real quick because he continues to just knock out great movie after great movie after great movie. I mean, I think if you look at this guy's track record of films that he's done so far, from Fruitvale Station to Creed to the two Black Panther movies. There might be another one in there somewhere. This guy just does not miss in regards to making great quality films. I'm really eager, especially I think the fact that Sinners for him was an original movie, I think was really brilliant in regards to seeing like what his mind can kind of create when it's not dependent on a franchise. And I really want more original stuff from Ryan Coogler after watching Sinners. But he is a bankable guy. If you want a high quality movie, if you're a studio, I would be aiming to try and get Ryan Coogler to do anything for me right now. I honestly will put him up in at least the top three of best directors of this generation right now. Christopher Nolan, I think, is number one, but I think it's arguable that you can put Ryan Coogler at number two or three if you can come up with somebody else. I'm not talking about like the old heads like Quentin Tarantino, Martin Scorsese, Ridley Scott, those people that are still around. I'm talking current up and coming sort of like generational directors. Ryan Coogler is definitely up there and worth all the praise that he's currently getting right now. But I had a blast with Sinners. If you haven't had the opportunity to check it out, I would still suggest check this out in the best format that you possibly can. If you've got an IMAX, see it there. If you don't have an IMAX, Dolby Cinema easily, and if you don't, just see it if you get the opportunity to certainly do so. But let's talk about this movie real quick, because I was impressed with a lot of things. The soundtrack in this movie is incredible. I literally watched the movie all the way through, even the post scenes. You got the credits, and you have two post sequences in here, just so you people know. If you want to stick around, I highly recommend that you do so. But the music alone, music, sound, great soundtrack overall. The movie itself sounded great. The editing in this movie was brilliant in the sense of producing some really great sort of cuts and jump scares and moving you along through the movie in a very suspenseful sort of way. So I was a really big fan of the editing. Special effects certainly on par, and the directing here, especially I think from Ryan Coogler. My top scores for the movie for sure: sound, editing, and the directing from Ryan Coogler. There is a sequence in here when the music begins at their party at the club, where it really goes to show you the influence that blues music, or just music from the Black culture, has really like transversed all these different generations and all these different cultures and societies, and to kind of see how it all blends together. I mean, just from a director standpoint and a writing standpoint, to do it in like what felt like a complete one cut shot of going from like different generations to different like dance styles and music styles from like all across the world, to kind of see how all of our music is kind of connected, and the true power of what music can do, not just in the sense of like, pulling at your emotions and creating these epic moments, but also just on the spiritual aspect, what it could potentially touch. I mean, you talk about like just classic blues artists, right? That used to go to the crossroads and make deals with the devil and stuff to be able to create this incredible music that just captures everybody, right? Like really tapping into sort of the folklore elements of blues music and the impact and power of what music can do. And then to kind of see it traverse through a bunch of different generations and stuff. I mean, just like from a philosophical point of view, for a filmmaker to be able to put that kind of on screen, I thought it was one of the more beautiful moments I've seen in cinema in a really, really long time. So I got to give Ryan Coogler his props for just that one particular moment in general, but great directing overall in here. The cast really showed up. There's a great aesthetic to this film. I can't remember the year in which this movie was set in off the top of my head. But I really love the aesthetics of it. It felt like elements of, especially when they're on their plantation and when they're like going through the old town and whatnot, it had the feeling of that particular time period, which I was a really big fan of. And I thought everybody really embodied their characters extremely well. Michael B. Jordan playing Stack and Smoke, the ability to have two different sort of personalities, play off of yourself at times. You know, I know that they had a stand-in, I believe, but Michael said during his press tour that he would almost have to like pre-prepare for how he was going to act as his counterpart, because he would have to tell his counterpart maybe some of the mannerisms and some of the acting choices that he would make as he acts as Smoke against somebody standing in for Stack, or the opposite way around. So to be able to do that, it sounds really incredible from Michael B. Jordan's role. Loved Haley Steinfeld in here as Mary. Delroy Lindo as Delta was perfect in here. Wunmi Mosaku, if I'm pronouncing her name correctly. Wunmi, is that how pronouncing your first name? Wunmi. I've seen her just recently in the Loki television series, and she was great. She was also really great as Annie in here. But I really love the story. There's something really cool about. First off, this movie is really sexy, okay? When it comes to vampires, you expect not only jump scares, but vampires have a sense of like sensuality to them. There's definitely a sexy vibe about vampires, and I thought they definitely brought that in this movie for sure. Whether it was the relationship between Stack and Mary, or Smoke's relationship with Annie, there is something really beautiful about both of those, especially these brothers share so much in common. To kind of see their story of going from Chicago to want to come back to their hometown and go ahead and sort of build a business of their own. I love that they also share sort of like another reason for wanting to come back home, and it's because they're both very much madly in love. Now, for Stack, I mean, I guess he's kind of lucky that Mary certainly still remained in the town, or at least was there when they showed up. But Smoke's story with Annie, and the loss that they both had to go through, and to see them both explain to both of these women that they still very much love them after all this time. There was something really sweet, I thought, about that moment, and genuine about the idea. Like, yeah, these two men, regardless of how gangster they are, what they've been involved in their time in Chicago, at the end of the day, they cannot deny sort of the love of their lives and what sort of draws them kind of back home. So I really did love the romance element of it. And again, very, very sexy, very, very, very sexy movie. And look, I'll be straightforward with you guys too. You know, uh, Wunmi, who plays Annie in here, most people probably wouldn't necessarily put her like at the top 10 of like what they would consider maybe most attractive woman sort of like in the world, right? But I love how honest and truthful Ryan Coogler is with this movie. Not worrying so much about what a modern day audience would think, but really considering the time period in which this movie certainly takes place, and the idea that like, you know, features about a person, um isn't all that matters, right? It wasn't a materialistic sort of um time period back then. And I love the fact that Ryan Coogler is not afraid to cast a woman like Won-mi into sort of a love interest role for who some people would say is like the heartthrob of this culture in regards to Michael B. Jordan. And so I do love the deep connection that him as Smoke has with Annie, and you can feel it, man. You can feel it. And I think from a storyline perspective, I thought that was wonderful because look, let's be honest, right? We talk all the time about like colorism in movies in the sense that, you know, Hollywood has this tendency of being afraid to cast maybe really dark men in lead roles. Same thing for really dark women in lead roles. You know, sometimes you got to look like a toothpick or a model to kind of get these big roles. But the fact that they had Woonmi cast in this particular role as Annie, I thought was absolutely wonderful, and it felt truthful and honest. And I really love the relationships that Ryan Coogler wind up building in here, not just from the love interest, but I think from the supporting cast around them as well. I think they did a really good job of establishing the relationships with a lot of the characters before they wind up sort of being thrusted into the environment in which they're currently in. From a horror perspective, I really love the designs of the vampires in the sense of constantly having their eyes glowing at night, being able to see some of their abilities, whether that be them taking flight, them melting at the sunlight, sort of thing. Some of the disfigurement. Shout out to the special effects department for being able to do all the makeup and blood and whatever the case may be. So very frightening to certainly say the least, and they provided a lot of jump scares. It's not like a full-on horror film at all, but definitely enough jump scares, enough blood, some gruesome moments to say the least, to certainly warrant it being a vampire flick for sure. So I really loved the horror and the thriller elements of this movie. I mean, especially when you start hearing like some of the reactions from the people in the audience as the movie's going, that's when you know it's a good film for sure. And if there's any sort of like, there's a lot of, I think, takeaway messages from this movie, but one of the things that I really enjoyed about it was Stack and Smoke's reasoning for wanting to come back, because not only is their reason for wanting to come back to their hometown to start this business, but it's something that I think that they instill in their cousin for wanting to go on and continue to make his music despite everything that certainly happens to him in this movie. And I think it's the concept of build something for yourself. If it's something that you absolutely love, build something for yourself. And again, I'm sure there's plenty of other messages that people can really connect to. But one of the things that really I took away from this was the idea of building something for yourself and sort of giving back to your community to help it grow even more. You know, there's a line in here where they say, you know, why you could have built this club in Chicago if you wanted to. Why'd you come back home? And he says, because we didn't want to give them something of ours. Like, we wanted to establish something of our own and make it for our people, in the sense that I think they recognize and understand that when it comes to especially the Black culture, we invent a lot of shit. You know, we start a lot of shit, a lot of movements, a lot of, I mean, hip hop right now is like the number one cultural thing going on right now. That comes from a Black and Puerto Rican community from the South Bronx in the 1970s, right? You can go back as far as blues music, which influenced that also, right? So there's always sort of like an origin point, but sometimes people want to claim it as their own or sort of hitch themselves to that wagon. And whether that be steal the credibility, steal it right from under you, or build off of it and try and make it more of their own instead of what it originally, who it originally belonged to, and where it originally sort of came from, in a sense of muddying the waters. So the idea of the Stack brothers being conscious of that and wanting to go ahead and bring it back home to them so they can establish wealth there, so they can give back to their community and give to their people, I thought was really brilliant from that perspective. Because I mean, you can go back to, you know, the classic race massacres. The first one that comes to mind is the the Tulsa massacres, where you had a really thriving and rich black community and society, and because of the fact that something goes terribly wrong, to give people an excuse to then want to burn it all down. Something Smoke says in this movie about money equals power, and that is very much true. And you can acquire power other ways, but money is certainly power. And when people see you acquiring money, and it's not money that, or it's not power that they gave to you, and you're establishing it on your own, they don't want you to have it. They'll burn it down and make you start all over again. I highly recommend checking out, reading up about the Tulsa massacres if you can. But it all connects in regards to this movie and the motivations for the Stack brothers, or the twins here in this movie, to want to go ahead and certainly establish something for themselves. And again, the idea that you have their cousin who experienced all this trauma in here, even his father wanting him to repent for his sins and put his guitar down, knowing what the power of his music can do, he still goes on for the rest of his life to go ahead and kind of create that music for himself. And he makes a fortune. I don't think he made a deal with the devil, to certainly say the least, but he certainly built something for himself. And I thought it was just really kind of beautiful and a great message overall to kind of see. So build something for yourself, man. And I think that's really important for a lot of diverse cultures out there, and anybody that finds themselves as a minority. I highly recommend that you try and create something for yourself, so you can have that value and that ownership of it, regardless of what people think. And again, that was one of the more potent messages I certainly took away from this. But overall, man, great story, great relationships, great drama. Definitely made me chuckle here or there every once in a while. Some great humor to bring in some levity. The music is just riveting, and it just really compels you all throughout. I found my leg just, my leg usually shakes from anxiety, but this time it was really going along a little bit from the beat sometimes, and a little bit from the anxiety as to what was going to happen next in this movie. So it's got the scares, it's got the thrills, it's got the sexy romance, and it's got a great story with some great performances in it, guys. If you are curious about seeing Sinners, I highly recommend you check it out for yourself. But again, these are simply my A+ opinions. I always want to know yours. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section box below, guys. But until next time, do me a big favor, as always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.